Adanna Nwosu stood at the entrance of the Grand St. Michael's Cathedral in Victoria Island, Lagos. Her father, Chief Adanna Nwosu, held her arm in a grip so tight it bruised, anchoring her to the marble floor while the golden chandeliers bathed everything in a deceitful glow. The air was thick with the smell of white hibiscus and whispers of Lagos's most powerful families, all gathered to witness what they thought was a glorious union. But to Adanna, it was a funeral hearse. Draped in an elaborate ivory George wrapper and bejeweled headgear, Adanna felt the betrayal seeping through her veins, hotter than the noon sun. She was being traded like cattle to Tunde Adebayo, the ruthless oil tycoon who controlled half of Nigeria's southern exports. As she approached the altar, her heart rebelled. The murmurs rose when Adanna, fighting her father's iron grip, took a daring step back, then another, and then she fled. Her gel came undone as she raced toward the towering cathedral doors. Just as her fingers touched freedom, a hand snatched her wrist. She spun around and froze. It was Tunde himself, his face calm, his grip like iron. "You can run, wife," he whispered, voice low and dangerous. "But you'll never escape me." Adanna ran until the cobblestone roads blurred under her tear-soaked lashes. The weight of her beaded wrapper dragged behind her like a chain, but she pushed forward. She had only one place in mind, her late grandmother's old compound in a dusty corner of Abeokuta, a place forgotten by time and far removed from Lagos's glass towers and armored convoys. When she finally stumbled into the abandoned bungalow, the scent of aged mahogany and damp earth wrapped around her like a comfort she hadn't felt in months. She slammed the iron door shut and locked it. Only then did she collapse on the cracked tile floor, sobbing, ripping off the heavy gel and jewelry until she felt human again. As exhaustion pulled her into restless sleep, the faint scent of brewing coffee woke her hours later. Confused, heart hammering, Adanna crept toward the kitchen and froze. There, sleeves rolled up, brewing 2 cups of coffee like he belonged, was Tunde Adebayo. "I see you're awake," he said casually, setting a cup down. "Come now, Adanna. It's time to go home." Panic seized Adanna's limbs, but before she could scream, the front door burst open. Chief Akenna stormed in, flanked by his son, Somtochukwu, the brother Adanna once trusted with her secrets. Her mother, Lady Ifeoma, stood silently behind, clutching a prayer rosary like it could wash away her sins. "You disgrace us, Adanna!" Chief Akenna bellowed, yanking her by the arm. "You will return with your husband, willingly or not." Adanna struggled, screamed, clawed at her brother, but he only tightened his grip, muttering, "It's for the family." The betrayal burned hotter than fire. When she slapped Somtochukwu, he returned the gesture, leaving her dazed and broken. Thrown into the back seat of Tunde's black Lexus, Adanna realized the battle was already lost. Tunde slid into the seat beside her, his gaze unreadable. "You belong to me now," he said, as Lagos swallowed them whole once more. Tunde's estate wasn't just a house, it was a fortress. High walls crowned with electric fencing, uniformed guards at every corner, and inside a palace dripping in gold and ivory marbles. Yet it felt colder than a cell. Adanna stared at her reflection in the mirror, a doll dressed in satin and sorrow. She had no fight left as the maid led her to a sprawling bedroom. Slipping onto the oversized bed, she let herself cry for the girl she used to be, the girl her parents had killed in a single greedy bargain. Later that night, Tunde entered quietly, sitting beside her like a shadow. He gently dabbed ointment on the red, angry welt Somtochukwu had left on her cheek. His touch was surprisingly tender, his brow furrowed in something almost like regret. "You don't have to love me," he said gruffly, "but you are safe here. No one will hurt you again." But Adanna didn't believe in saviors anymore. Only survivors. Adanna woke early, determined. She would not become a trophy imprisoned in silk. Quietly, she ventured through the mansion's endless halls, searching for exits and loopholes. That's when she found Tunde in the gym, lifting weights like the gods of iron themselves had sculpted him. "You can't keep me here," she snapped, startling him mid-rep. He smirked without missing a beat. I don't have to, he said, tossing a paper toward her. She caught it, and her breath caught too. It was their marriage certificate, stamped, signed, and bearing her forged signature. I never agreed to this, she shouted, voice cracking. You agreed the moment you ran from the altar, Tunde said quietly. In our world, silence is consent. Fury burned in her veins. She turned away, biting down tears of helplessness. Fine. If she had to play captive, she would plot her escape carefully, and this time she would not fail. That afternoon, Adanna played along, pretending to accept her fate. When Tunde suggested they visit her old home to collect her things, she agreed. Her chance had come. As they neared her family's estate, memories of betrayal flooded her. Inside, her parents acted like hosts at a festive party, ignoring the hurt carved into their daughter's heart. She packed only what was hers by right, leaving the gifts they had once showered her with untouched. Tunde, ever watchful, allowed her the illusion of freedom. But as they left, Adanna knew time was short. Once at the airport, pretending to feel sick, she excused herself. And before Tunde realized it, Adanna was gone, boarding a flight bound for Accra, Ghana. This time she would vanish for good. Adanna landed in Accra, a stranger in a strange land, heart pounding with a mixture of hope and fear. She booked a small boutique hotel tucked away in Osu, trying to stay invisible. For a few days, she tasted freedom, roaming through bustling markets, sipping sobolo by the beaches, dancing with strangers under the humid, starlit sky. But her dreams shattered when she saw him again. Tunde, dressed casually, blending into the crowd, but unmistakably there. Their eyes locked across the market square. She ran, weaving through laughing vendors and curious tourists, heart hammering wildly. But no matter how far she pushed herself, she could feel his presence closing in, like a tightening noose. By the time she made it to the hotel, panting, shaking, he was already waiting. You can run, wife, he said, stepping into the light, his voice a velvet threat. But you will always find me. That night, he didn't chain her to the bed or threaten her. He sat by the window, drinking palm wine, staring out at the city lights. The silence between them stretched heavy and long. Finally, Adanna couldn't take it. Why? She asked in a broken whisper. Why not just let me go? Tunde didn't look at her when he answered. Because I didn't just marry you to save you from your enemies. I married you to save myself. She frowned, confused. He finally turned, his gaze raw and naked. Your father owed me debts he could never repay. I could have destroyed him. Instead, I bargained for you because the first time I saw you laughing barefoot in his garden, I knew I'd found something worth more than power. Adanna staggered under the weight of his confession. Everything she thought she knew had changed. Again. Back in Lagos, Tunde gave her freedom. No guards, no locked doors, no demands. Yet Adanna remained trapped by her own heart. She saw the sacrifices he made, the rivals he crushed in silence, the territories he surrendered just to keep her untouched. She saw the way he watched her when he thought she wasn't looking, full of longing and loneliness. Slowly, almost unwillingly, Adanna found herself drawn to him, not the ruthless tycoon the world feared, but the man who, against all odds, loved her with an unbreakable, devastating intensity. One night, unable to fight it any longer, she found him on the balcony, smoking a Cuban cigar under the moonlight. Without a word, she stepped into his arms. His mouth crashed down into hers, desperate, savage, hungry. Their kiss was a war, a surrender, a promise. She didn't push him away. This time, she kissed him back. A year later, the great Nwosu Adebayo wedding anniversary lit up Lagos. Gold-threaded Ankara fabrics and flowing agbadas filled the vast gardens of Tunde's mansion. Drums throbbed, women ululated, fireworks colored the night sky. But inside the glass ballroom, Adanna and Tunde danced alone, no longer enemies, no longer strangers forced into union, but two hearts finally beating as one. You could have crushed me, Adanna murmured against his chest, the beaded back of her gown sparkling under the chandeliers. Why didn't you? Tunde cupped her face gently, reverently. Because the moment you ran, he whispered, I knew I'd chase you for the rest of my life. Adanna smiled through tears, pulling his forehead to hers. You don't have to chase anymore, she breathed. I'm already yours. And as they kissed, the world faded away, leaving only the two of them, bound by fate, forged in fire, and finally free. The end. What did you think of Adanna and Tunde's story? Did you find yourself rooting for them? Or wishing Adanna had escaped for good? Was Tunday's love redeeming, or was it still too controlling? Tell us in the comments whose side are you on. If you love the drama, betrayal, and unexpected romance woven into the heart of Lagos, share this story with a friend who needs a good emotional roller coaster. And don't forget to follow for more African love stories full of fire, passion, and unforgettable twists.